Man, you got to get me out of here. I'm having paranoid delusions.
Nice guy.
It was fun. That was very funny.
Not out to scare people.
It was funny. I was saying, yeah, this is the System of a Down experience, man. You got to give yourself over to it. Hey, check it out, man. Laughs are plenty. We got good news. We got Serge and Darren from System of a Down, and they're back. And I'm going to get the famous two-person round of applause. It's good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for being here.
How you doing? You good?
Good.
Yeah? Welcome back to the UK. You got 2 albums ready to come out in 2005, the first being Mesmerise, and we got a lot of questions from our plan at mtv2europe.com from a lot of fans who are happy to see you guys back. And I suppose the first line of questioning centers around the fact that you've got these 2 records coming out. No one's complaining about the wealth of material, but I think people are genuinely intrigued as to how this came about, whether it was a deliberate plan of yours or whether you just ended up with too many songs at the end of the day.
It's just, you know, we felt we had a lot of good material to put on there, and that's pretty much it, you know. Spent the last few years of our lives writing, and we didn't want to, you know, leave out songs that we thought deserved to be on a System record, but in the same time, we didn't want to put out like 2 hours worth of music, so we kind of separated them up like that. And my main influence to do that, personally, was the movie Kill Bill. I thought was kind of cool how it kind of came out, you know, as a continuation the second time.
And so quickly as well. I'm glad you made a reference to something that was a success on that level, because the only musical examples I can think of in the last couple of years, or the last 5 years, are Nas. He put out 2 albums in the same year. And I know Weezer attempted to do the same thing.
Look, see, we're putting out 1 album separated into two parts. It's not really 2 albums for us. This, I think like 10 years down the line, we're going to look back on it and this will look like 1 album to us.
Yeah. You know, you've given a certain amount of songs off the back of a successful album room to breathe, but in less of a spotlight with Steal This Album, didn't you? You know, here's some extra stuff left over from these sessions, whatever, but it almost feels a bit apologetic when you do rarity records or outtake records, you know, sometimes.
Steel was never an outtake record. It still isn't. It's one of my favorite records.
And we get letters from fans. I mean, we as a band consider Steel to be one of our records, one of our albums, the one that came after Toxicity. And
we just didn't promote it or tour for it. So people,
do you think that's what kind of created the confusion?
And a lot of people don't know that mostly the drum tracks were from the Toxicity takes. There's a mess of like guitars, almost all the vocals are from brand new sessions. Me and Serge took 2 months in the studio to do Steel. And I mean, some people take less than that to do
a single.
You know what I mean? So we put a lot of work into that record, and all the work wasn't done in the Toxicity sessions. It was done after we got off tour and everything, you know.
So, you know, you put 2 months into Steel, and I'm glad you cleared that up, and because I like that record as well, you know, and you know, confidence must have been quite high after that, because I mean, like you say, you spent the last couple of years writing for these 2 records. Yet before that, you're in a position where, you know, you've spent 2 months making this other record, and that's quick for you, isn't it? That's quick for you and Serge to go in there and bash these out like that.
We're both very dedicated to what we do, and I think if you live like that, I think the music will just speak out of you, and that's why we end up with so much material.
Yeah.
Serious, because I mean, between both of us, I know that's pretty much how we occupy our time. Is
just writing, man, and just creating.
Yeah, you know, just playing, and out of that playing, a lot of stuff comes out of it. You know, it's not a big concept behind it or anything. It's just kind of...
That's how you're perceived, I think, a lot by your fans, isn't it? You know, they consider what you guys do to be something that carries a lot more weight, maybe conceptually or creatively, than just sitting down and jamming songs out. You know, you have that aura about you. Are you aware of that?
Well, it's not like we just sit as a band and jam songs out. It's more of like, it's just being dedicated to what we do. Individually, everyone comes in powerful into the situation, and what everybody adds individually to the band makes the band powerful.
How collaborative is it when it comes to making the records? Because the rumor I was always aware of around the release of Toxicity and stuff was that, Darren, you'd spent a lot of time working on those songs, and that was primarily your record creatively.
I bring in a big bulk of a lot of the stuff to the band, but once I bring that stuff in, Serge's color and all the things that he does to the songs, then Serge brings in songs and I give my input to those songs. The way we bring songs in is more of an individual thing. We each take our space and write our songs and then bring it into the band and end up using the songs that end up working with the band, the ones that everybody as a unit is feeling. And so and that's not even the law, because we have had songs that like we collaborate together and it comes together. I mean, for us, it's mainly of like, let's put out a great song, and put out a group of great songs, and how we get there, it's not the important part. It's
whatever
just,
serves the music.
Yeah, let's just get there.
Yeah, I want to get back to the 2 records because we've got 2 to talk about, and I don't know whether I'm going to get time to talk about Hypnotize with you. I don't know how you're planning on approaching these 2 albums, because effectively, if they are 2 equal records, are you going to approach it like you did with Steal This as well? You know, we're not necessarily going to go into the promotional drive for.
No, we're planning to, you know, do press and whatever. But see, it's the second part of the first record, really, for us.
Yeah.
So it'll be just kind of like a continuation and just
Why
a little.
is it so difficult to understand? It's so simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll already be on tour once Hypnotize comes out. So.
Yeah. So it's just a case of integrating probably more of those songs into the live set as time goes on.
Once
and stuff.
Hypnotize is out,
a lot of new stuff to jam on.
Yeah.
Once Hypnotize is out, everyone's gonna view these records as one. Once it's out, and it's tough to explain until people hear it. You know what I mean?
Never even crossed your mind to, I mean, double albums come with bring with them a certain stigma. In hindsight, people look back on great double albums and think, well, that's a rarity, because a lot of double albums tend to overstep the mark. I think, as a fan, too much music or too much to take in one go.
That's once again why
you didn't want to do it.
Separate and spanned out.
Right on. Cool. I think we've covered that. The album's called Mesmerized. It's due out real soon. Okay, straight to the planet. MTV2Europe.com. A lot of people, want to talk to you about your music, and they can't all be here because I worked long and hard to be here, and I'm taking.
You're not leaving this.
I'm not leaving this position. But we like to open the door and create a conduit for you and your fans as best we can. Again, we've kind of covered the double album, but the Dimebag wants to know sort of. He talks about the curse of the double records. Are there any that you kind of think of that you really enjoy over time? I mean, he mentions the Beatles, the White Album. Of
course.
Are there any others that you can think of that you love?
Well, The Wall.
Yeah.
The Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses had. I don't think that album was as consistent as Appetite, but it had so many great tracks on it.
Tracks.
Yeah.
Have you any interest in the next Guns N' Roses? I mean, obviously there's interest, but have you got high hopes of if Axl can ever bring it out of the bag?
I don't think about it too much.
If you do, you drive yourself insane. You know what I mean?
It's their band. It's their. I've met Slash before. He's a really nice guy.
He is a nice
Wish
man.
them all luck. Hopefully they can work it out. They're a great band, and it'd be nice to see it. Yeah.
What else has got a question for Serge here? Your particular approach towards singing / screaming. I don't know if that's how you approach it. But so where's that come from? Do you have influences vocally, or is it purely you? Is it something that came out of nowhere for you?
My influences are more with, music and inspiration around me per minute, per second. Less vocalists, but yeah, there are vocalists that I really like. A lot of amazing different vocalists.
Who are some of your peers nowadays? Who do you consider to have beautiful larynx in this day and age? Well, that's good, because you're in the same band. That's a really...
I honestly feel the same way, though.
No, seriously, his singing's come up so amazingly. He used to always sing, but it's not something that we've he hasn't sang a lot on the records, and now he's singing lead and doing it. It's great. When you write a song, you have a vision for that song, and when you make it happen in a way that's closest to your vision, it's the best.
I've yet to hear, obviously, both records, and they're under severe lock and key until they come out, and this is the 21st century, and we all understand that. It makes my job a little more difficult in terms of having a one-on-one or one-on-two. So for you personally, what are your feelings in terms of the real major differences? Maybe even, you can go more specific musically, instrumentally, or what instruments you used, or even just when you listen to say, Mesmerize at the moment, talk a little more about that progression, how you feel it's really moved on.
I mean, there's a vocal progression, once again, between me and him. I think the music is a little bit more technical in some ways, without even trying to be, but I think it's not as just riffy, but it's got more dimensions to it, I guess you can say.
Yeah. What about subject matter-wise, lyrically and stuff? I know that the tracks I've heard. Once again, you guys have opened your eyes and your ears to what's happening outside of your own front door, and you're very good at that. You're very good at expressing what frustrates you and annoys you. Does that permeate throughout the record generally?
When I listen back to the record, the thing that I feel the most is it's pretty silly, because even with the strongest points and subject matter that you can discuss, even with the most like potent stuff. I think there's like humor in the way that it's presented, and that makes it like so.
It's an extension
positive.
of our personalities, though. You know what I mean? Like, we all have like things that we're concerned about, and we're not like, we're thinking people, but there's a sense of humor about us too, you know. Like, me and Serge don't sit there in the dark and talk about George Bush. You know what I mean? Like,
the blinds drawn, like,
you know, but,
make sure there's at least one light on in the room at all times.
I think it's an extension, you know, of our characters. We're kind of, we both have somewhat of a sense of humor, you know. And
people pick up on that, you know. There's a question, actually, I'll try and find it specifically because I do want to name check everyone that asked the question, but I think it was who were you referring to in the lyric, "My cock is much bigger than yours"? And Siguro, was there anyone specific you were referring to?
I was not necessarily referring to one person.
I didn't think you probably were, but I think people do understand that, and the BYOB reference and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's, you know, it's a fine line, isn't it?
It's never referring to one thing, though. None of our songs are ever like, you ask about any song and I can give you like 6 things it's about. But all those 6 things come together in one way.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about toxicity. Let's take some time out from talking about the new record for a second and talk about an era which definitely changed your lives, when it changed your band. I don't know if it changed your lives specifically, I wouldn't know you that well, but it definitely changed you as a band. And it kicked you up several notches in terms of the amount of people you could play to, how many records you sold, I guess what that can afford you.
Surprised us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, at what point during that whole record, whether it was during the making of it or after it came out, did you realize that things weren't going to be the same?
Things are the same, though. Like, I don't know, we don't view each other any differently. As people, I don't think we're very different.
Aren't there more pressures on you, though, in terms of what you have to undertake as a group? The more records that you sell, therefore, the bigger the shows you play, therefore, perhaps the more people you have to hire in order to make sure that the shows get better. Just a certain knock-on effect, do you feel that at all?
I wouldn't call it a pressure. Certain things get, you know, a bit more complex and as things grow, but to me, it's like, as long as we continue writing, which is what Darren and I really love to do, and jamming and improving what we do artistically, that's success to us.
Do you keep a small crew around you? Do you try and keep it as minimal and as easy?
A couple hundred people.
I mean, we like to take, you know, some
we take
people,
our whole
like
family.
his brother's on tour with us, you know what I mean? And one of a couple of my best friends are on tour with us. So, like, you know, the people around us are usually people from home that are kind of close, and, you know, we got our road crew. And
that's the best, isn't it? To be in a position whereby you have, you know, afforded yourselves enough success to be able to turn around to your friend and say, it's not, this isn't charity, I want you to be on the road with me, I want to have my friends around me.
It's,
you know what I mean?
Just nice to be like away and have someone familiar next to you, opposed to some stranger that's doing it because he's getting paid or she's getting paid. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. See, there's definitely a mafia undercurrent to this band. They don't want to talk about it, but it's certainly there. The video for Chop Suey, right? That was for a lot of people, I think. Obviously not core fans, but a lot of people the first time they got to see you on a massive scale because it got played a lot more than previous videos. What are your memories about that? I mean, I know you had your fan club down there, a lot of people who are passionate. But do you have any kind of, when you think back, any sort of, you know, particularly fond memories about that day or two that you shot that video?
Eating the noodles was my funnest part.
How many did you have to go through for them to get just that right shot?
Oh man, it was crazy. There was people running around with noodles.
Right.
It was pretty dangerous.
It was a good day.
You could get hurt.
Good day in the noodle industry then, definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of noodles sold across the counter. Yeah, and you mean you had some really great shots, obviously getting up close and personal with your friend, with your fans as well. That must any sort of inappropriate grapples of the ass or anything like that?
Nothing I'm not used to.
Oh, you pimp! It sort of seemed like it sort of felt like on that tour that the shows just got stronger and stronger, and again the crowds got bigger and bigger, and you were playing to more and more people. How did you feel at the end of that tour? The
Tired.
Tour? Yeah, right. Can you remember what the last show was like? And where it was? And
it was emotional. I remember it was in Dallas.
Ozfest?
Yeah, it was an Ozfest. It was in Dallas, and like Chavo got all like teary-eyed because he's like, "We're never gonna get on stage again." And we're like, "We're just gonna take."
That's just the weed in Texas. It just gets you emotional. We're
just gonna take a couple of years off, and we knew we were gonna take a couple of years off. The reason why we stayed away for so long is we didn't necessarily want the band to end up becoming this household name overnight. You know what I mean? Like, what's happened so far and where we are so far has become a gradual
It's containable to
progress. So it seemed like the radio was playing us a lot, and MTV was playing us a lot, and for us, we're kind of like, we don't necessarily want to be seen that much, you know? I mean,
because after we put out Toxicity, when we put out Steel, they wanted us to do like singles and videos from that, and we're like, if we're gonna do any video, we're gonna do Boom, because that's when the protests were happening and stuff.
Yeah.
With Michael Moore and.
That spoke volumes, you know.
well, the reason we even
you and Michael Moore do that video, and I mean
the reason we did it is because we felt like it was appropriate to do, and till this day, it's one of like the proudest moments I got.
Absolutely.
In the band, because like the label was against it, and all these people were against it. We had to fight for it, and it was at a time where, you know, living in America, it wasn't the most popular thing to tell a bunch of Americans that you're wrong.
yeah, yeah.